Welcome back to Gooner Fanzine TV on another very disappointing, very sorry Saturday where once again Arsenal disappointed all of us very, very bitterly. I'm joined by Layth and Rosie to go through all the latest. Layth, that wasn't fun, was it?
That was so not fun. No, absolutely. I'm sitting in the front room. I've done the live blog, I've done the match report, done the player ratings, done the reaction, pre-match stuff as well. I was so excited before the game. I really thought Arsenal would get the season back on track after a really disappointing result on Wednesday night at the Etihad. But it was another really, really disappointing result. Just like Wednesday night, the performance was not good enough and the result was obviously not good enough. You can sometimes accept a defeat if the performance is good or they showed a lot of promise. But there was a distinct lack of character from the players today. And Arteta in one of our, in one of his post-match press conferences, basically he refused to defend Arsenal. He refused to defend his Arsenal players. I think there'll be big changes ahead of next season because there's a lot of players underperforming there. We put a piece out on the Gooner website now. We've obviously done the live blog and a few other pieces. So to get on there, have a look. But at the same time, to see Arteta not defend his players speaks volumes. He obviously didn't criticise him because he's too experienced for that, and he would never would because he's a proper football man. And he'd never keep anything. He'd never say anything outside the dressing room. But at the same time, to not defend them speaks volumes. So a disappointing day all round.
Well, Rosie, you obviously penned an article saying how much you miss football and how much you just could not wait for the Arsenal to come back. You spoke about it on the BBC, and then you came back to 2 games with 2 successive losses. Very little positives to be taken from it. But what have you got to say about today?
It was just not great to watch. Like from the start, I kind of like had an inclination that okay, this isn't going to be easy. Like we just play with like a team that's, I mean, like Liverpool should be playing. Like they've won the league sort of thing. Like we've taken our foot off the gas, but we're nowhere near where we need to be. I think all the players know that. But then there's all this talk on social media wanting to fight for the club, and then this. Do you know what I mean? It's just more than disappointing. Can't really put it into words.
Well, a player that did put it into words was Maupay. Obviously, was quite a big name in this game, scoring the winner, injuring Leno. But he said that the Arsenal players need to show a bit of humility and understand that they've taken a loss. Do you think that sort of played a part into it, Leif, that the Arsenal players were a bit too cocky and that they thought that it was only Brighton?
Well, you'd like to think not. There's obviously a lot of conversation that goes on during a football match. We've all played the game, obviously a really bad level for us, but the principles are the same. You do chat to your opponents, and sometimes it does get a bit heated and a bit aerated. But at the same time, there's a difference between giving someone stick and being cocky. And if Arsenal are being cocky, especially at 1-0 up, that's what Maupay was alluding to, I believe. And if they're getting cocky at 1-0, not just giving it large because you've scored, but just thinking you've won the game, then that is unacceptable. Maupay's obviously the villain of the piece anyway because of his challenge in the first half, which I'm sure we'll go on to in a second. But at the same time, if you've got an opponent criticising your players because they're too cocky after a defeat, that's not good. And that happened under the dog days of Wenger, and I remember it under previous Arsenal managers as well. And it's just not good enough, and I don't want to hear that. Maybe Maupay's talking out of turn. He wouldn't have said it for no reason, I don't think. Not today, because there's nothing riding on it really for him and Arsenal, basically, in terms of what went on. So, for him to say that is it's really worrying. And it highlights a deeper malaise within Arteta's squad, basically, which he's going to have to address, basically, because it was a really, really disappointing day, as Rosie said, and we've all said, basically. So, yeah.
Well, Rosie, the big question you got to decide, the Maupay tackle on Leno, was that a foul or was that the right thing to do? Would you have done it if you were playing?
I mean, it was a tackle that you would make, as a player, but it was the timing of it. I don't think it was particularly malicious, especially not in the way that obviously it's come out now. But Leno fell awkwardly, and it was a bit of a cheeky tackle. Maybe he could have got booked for it in another game, but it's just a shoulder barge at the end of the day, But it's just such a shame that that's happened to Leno at this point in the season.
Yeah. I agree, Rosie. I think at times the game was played at a pre-season pace, and I think the Arsenal players were more annoyed at the fact that challenge wasn't a pre-season challenge, basically. And I don't know whether that's indicative of the mindset they've got when they weren't expecting a challenge like that. I think if that was my centre forward, I'd want him to go on a keeper. It wasn't that bad, and Leno was obviously trying to keep the ball in the box, and he sort of angled his body, and that contributed to him falling awkwardly. So I wouldn't cast Maupay as the real, true villain of the piece, a la sort of, what was his name? The lad at Burnham City. I can't remember his name. Is the and obviously, various other challenges as well. Dan Smith for Derby at Sunderland, Ryan Shawcross obviously at Stoke. It wasn't anywhere near those sort of challenges, basically. At the same time, did he have to make it? Maybe not, but at the same time, you challenge him for the ball. So I don't know if I blame him that much. And I think some of the Arsenal players at the end of the game circled him and had a bit of a pop at him. Why not do that during the game if you're that annoyed? Don't just posture and go, oh, I'm annoyed now, basically. And Guendouzi's had a little sly sort of. It wasn't even out of him. I don't know what he tried to nip him or something. I don't know what he was doing. But that was really annoyed. And you didn't need to do that. And I don't want to see my players give it a big one after the game. Do it during the game. If you're annoyed with someone, you can always do a reducer with a tackle and make your point, basically. And that didn't happen either. So Maupay was annoying, and he shouldn't have done that. And you could argue if the ref had seen it differently. Who knows? He might have got sent off. Who knows? You never know. Martin Atkinson would never have done that, basically. But at the same time, you just don't know. And for him to be in the pitch at the end, I can understand the frustrations from the Arsenal team. But show your bottle during the game. Don't just give it large after. It was really, really annoying. There were hardly any positives to take out of today. And maybe we'll go into Pepe's goal. I don't know. But it's just another game indicative of the slide and the malaise that Arsenal are in because of the last 3 or 4 years of underachievement. And there's a culture at the club now that would not be accepted at successful clubs. And for some reason, it has been. Arteta's obviously trying to change that. He's not got much money, and he's got a squad of underperforming players. And what do you do about it? It's quite worrying, really.
Well, it's funny you mentioned about the size of the squads. Obviously, the more injuries we get, is more problematic. We've already got quite a small squad strength at the moment. But one of the scant positives today was actually Holding coming back. How did you think he performed today, Rosie, in central defence after Wednesday's joyous period with Louise?
He didn't do badly. I thought he had a solid game in what was a pretty, dire game. It's refreshing to see someone, that's not going in for things all the time recklessly, which I think we do see with Louise far too often, sometimes with Socrates too. So it was a bit more of an assured performance, but nothing amazing. But if he keeps up playing like that, I don't see why he won't improve and stay in the team.
Yeah. I did a tweet earlier just basically saying, I was at the game at Old Trafford when he'd done his cruciate in, and it was really unfortunate because it stalled his progress. It knocked him out for a year, longer than a year, basically. And he is a talented player. He's still got to kick on, to a certain extent, but he's one for the future. And I know we've said it for a few years, but he has got potential. And it was good to see him back. And like Rosie said, it wasn't the best game, but it wasn't the worst game either for Holding.
Well, if we could try, there were a few scant pieces of sunlight of joy, but one of them today I thought was Saka. I thought he actually played another really good game. He looked really quite influential, playing in that sort of number 10 role in the middle of the midfield. He's played all over at the moment, hasn't he? He's played right back, right mid, he even played left back, and then he's played central midfielder. He's been an incredible find for us. But the wages he's on can't be sustainable. We need to sign into a new deal, but we don't seem to be edging towards that at any pace. Yeah,
you make really good points there, Serge. I quite like him on the left side of midfield. I think he could, he could be quite an attacking force. I do like him as a left back stroke wing back. But at the same time, I think if he goes further forward and his remit is to attack rather than defend, he can obviously channel, he can drive back and protect the channel anyway. But at the same time, if he's further forward, I think he is far more of an attacking threat. While, being aware of his defensive duties, basically. So I think that's a good position for him, and I hope it's a long-term position. Talking about long-term, you're absolutely right. Arsenal need to tie him down. It's as simple as that. Why haven't they tied him down? He's on £3,000 a week. I know you can say, well, that's a lot of money. Well, it is and it isn't. It's not a lot of money for a Premier League footballer who's 17, 18, who's got 10, 15 years ahead of him, potentially, hopefully at Arsenal, but he's probably got the pick of the best clubs in the world at the moment for him. And to be on that sort of low wages is absolutely scandalous. It just feels like there's no plan in terms of the hierarchy tying him down, in terms of building a squad, the money men building a squad for Arteta to use, basically. And it's very worrying. And if I was someone like Liverpool, I'd be making overtures to him left, right and centre at the moment. you know, and he seems like a grounded lad. I covered him for the under-21 Trekker Trade games all around the country last season, and he's got a great attitude, great temperament, great technique. He's really powerful. He's athletic. He's got a good touch. He's got a good package. He's got a good engine as well. And Arsenal need to sign him on a long-term deal. And the longer they don't, the longer it makes you worry. Certainly, given their past record on those sort of deals.
Well, it's funny you mentioned someone being signed down to a long-term package. Mesut Ozil was seen in real life today on the touchline warming up, Rosie, and you're our resident German player expert. What did you think of that? I mean, I never thought I'd actually see him on a pitch or on a bench again.
Yeah, when I saw him on the lineup, I thought almost certainly he'd come on, because I just didn't see how he couldn't in a game like that. I thought we would, to be honest, I thought we would have cruised the game, but that's Arsenal. But no, when the game went on and on, I think I said around 60 minutes, we need a bit of something in midfield. I thought the midfield was woeful today. And, it never came. When did we make subs? I think it was like 87th minute. Three, defensively minded players, Reece Nelson maybe not, but I don't know. I thought that game was crying out for someone like Ozil to make that pass and, separate the midfield a bit. But Arteta obviously doesn't think so. And I don't know. None of us really know why. And it's, what can you say about it when you don't know anything? It's hard to say,
I mean, Layth, have you got any inside scoops on Ozil from your sources or any views on Ozil?
I wish. No, every time you're in the mix zone, he'd always come past with his headphones on, and you'd never get a chance to talk to him, basically. Very rare that he'd give an interview. His agent would put out a few lines now and then, basically, but you'd never get anything out of Ozil. And, his Twitter feed's quite instructive sometimes, but what it doesn't say. And he was quite cheeky there again the other day. I don't know, you could argue whether he was alluding to the fact that he still wanted to stay at Arsenal, or you could say he was alluding to the fact he was tied on a big contract. He's always there's always two sides to an Ozil story, basically. But we're saying he didn't have a future on Wednesday night, but we also sort of countered that by saying he could be back in on Saturday, and this is exactly what happened in terms of him being in the squad. It just seems like Arsenal have no coherent long-term plan or strategy as to what to do with him. If you're going to manage him out, don't pick him at all and make it clear to him. But at the same time, he's on an awful lot of money, and can Arsenal afford to just keep him there on a bench for a year? It's not going to happen. But also, who's going to take him? Who's going to take him at that sort of price? And even if you loaned him, half the wages, under 75 grand a week, no one's going to pay that. So what do we do? How do you solve a problem like Mesut?
That's a podcast in itself, Layth. I think we do every week.
Yeah.
But the one positive, I suppose, in the 68th minute was Pepe actually scoring a goal, our £72 million signing. Rosie, how are the limbs?
Oh, the limbs, they weren't that great today. I thought Pepe had like a pretty, I don't know, apart from the goal, he didn't really do a lot. I mean, again, it wasn't a game where we were, streaming forward. But I was saying, moments before, like maybe he should be coming off, bring someone else on, but like Martinelli or something. But the goal was unbelievable. Not many players can hit a ball, place the ball that perfectly. So it was good to see. It was a great goal, but again, like it means nothing now because the team couldn't carry it over the line. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We know he's got a wonder of a left foot. Remember those two late free kicks against Vitoria in the Europa League, the Emirates in October. We know he can do it, but he just doesn't do it often enough. I think I gave him a 7.5 on the player ratings and on the Gooner website, basically. But that was completely because of the goal. You're right, he didn't actually do that much apart from that. So maybe I was a bit generous. I certainly marked down the rest of the team. But we want him to perform every week in, week out, and he's not doing that at the moment. And he hasn't done consistently throughout his Arsenal career this season. Hopefully he will. I don't think he's going anywhere. He seems happy enough, and Arsenal certainly won't sell him. So we've just got to hope he just puts this down to experience and kicks on. But it was a great goal. We're all very happy about the goal. And then what happened 7 minutes later? Lewis Dunk gets the equaliser, and then Maupay gets the winner in the 95th minute. It's just typical Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, Lewis Dunk's obviously a player we've discussed in previous videos about a possible signing to try and help our centre-back sort of nightmare. From his performance today, do you think Lewis Dunk would be a signing that Arteta should be looking at for the window?
Yeah, Dan the Man wrote a piece on him the other day, just basically saying 4 defenders Arsenal should look at. I remember writing a piece a couple of years ago on the fact that Lewis Dunk should be on Arsenal's radar. He's the sort of player that would enhance Arsenal's backline, but he's also the sort of player that Arsenal just wouldn't sign because he's not seen as an Arsenal type defender. i.e. someone who can actually defend, without any frills. So, it didn't surprise me he got the goal, because he's a really persistent centre-half. Holding did well to stop the ball on the line, but at the same time, he could have done potentially better in clearing his lines. But Lewis Dunk was receptive to what was going on and deserved his goal. And someone like that would absolutely enhance the Arsenal back line. Whether he signed him or not, I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, on that dour note, I have to make something more positive. In your background there, Rosie, you got an Aubameyang shirt. What did you think about Aubameyang today being on the wing?
I think he was a standout performer for me, because every time he was on the ball, he was looking forward and he looked like he had energy the whole game, trying to get into positions, and he was getting frustrated at times, which is understandable. But on the wing, he's not useless, of course, but he is a goal getter. He scores the goals. I think we'd be better off just benching Lacazette and putting Martinelli on the wing and then playing Aubameyang up front, because again, the strikers, they did what they could today, but at the same time, I think Lacazette missed a few in the first half. Aubameyang taking shots from, really weird positions on other times. I don't know. He did all right, but again, like for someone that's captaining the club, and he wants to get up there with the goals, he must be so frustrated with this team. I can't imagine, going from playing for, Dortmund and a team like that with a midfielder that is, progressively better than Arsenal's, to playing here. He must feel a little bit hard done by.
Yeah. And you're right. I think he's lost out on the left channel. He's left. He's not as effective, and we miss a force in the middle by him being on the left-hand side. He's good in various areas, and he does do well when he gets into the game. But at the same time, we didn't sign him to be a left-hand side attacker. Basically, we signed him to be a centre forward, and it's not. I don't want him on the left-hand side. I don't want him. I want him down the middle. And I think you're absolutely right. Lacazette, flattered to deceive again today. What's he doing up front? I know Arteta's trying different things, but you're right. Martinelli, play him on the left, put Aubameyang in the middle. Absolutely. So maybe he'll do that in Sheffield United next week. Let's hope so, because it's Arsenal season in a nutshell at Bramall Lane next Sunday, or on the 28th.
Right, well, normally we would do a video where we go through all the player ratings. Layth, you've written those up, and those are all on the Gooner website. But what rating would you give Arteta today?
Oh, good question. I'd give him 10 out of 10 for not defending the players after the game. I thought that was good. He never hung them out to dry like a Mourinho. It was all very measured. It was controlled anger and controlled aggression. But he was furious. You could see him. He was absolutely steaming. I'd love to have been a fly on the wall in the dressing room when he talked to him after the game. As I say, 10 out of 10 for his post-match performance. During the game, his game management, the team didn't play for him. So what does that say about the manager? He is 100% the right man for the job. There's no questions, there's no doubts or anything like that. I'm not going there at all, because I do think he's the right man for the job, and he is a long-term option, and he's one of the few long-term options who knows about the ethos of the club and has been a former Arsenal man anyway. It's just that his task is so big, and it seems to be getting bigger by the day. If we're talking purely in terms of football, he's got a series of defenders out. He's obviously got Leno out now. Luiz, I think it was a two-match ban, so he'll be out for Sheffield United as well. This is Arsenal season next week. If they lose that, there's no silverware. There's no chance of qualifying for Europe. So he has got a bit of a crisis in terms of injuries and players who are out. And it's typical Arsenal. The fact they've got a crisis after 3 months off, coming back after 4 days, basically. It's just typical Arsenal. So to answer your question, I'd give Arteta a 6, but I love him. I love him, and I think he's the right man for the job. Goes without saying. He just needs to clear out the dead wood, and hopefully he'll do that this summer.
All right, Rosie, have you got any final thoughts to leave us with?
I just hope we win a game this season. That's the sort of favourite.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's all from us. Don't forget to go to the Gooner Fanzine website to see more from Layth's writing, more of Layth's player ratings, and Rosie's article, how fun it is to be back to being an Arsenal fan, watching Arsenal.
So fun.